Good evening, everybody. Craig Greenwood here again for another episode of The World, and we find ourselves now it's the 2nd of June in Taupo, New Zealand. We've just had Queen's birthday weekend, 3 days of a lot of people going out spending money. We were actually really busy here at work, which was fantastic, apart from yesterday, of course, which was raining, but we were still not too bad. So went to town on Saturday, couldn't move, there was just people everywhere, so that's just awesome. I think people have completely fed up with being locked up for the last couple of months by the government and imprisoned in their own home, and wanted to get out and experience some freedom, spend some money, and it was good to see. And hopefully that'll inspire a lot more people to go out there and do the same thing. I see now there's a lot more people advertising for holidays around the South Island and motorhomes. You can get real cheap and all that kind of stuff, which is fantastic. And I hope people will take that up too, which would be really great. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to last though. I'm hoping it will. I really do, but I don't think it will. I think this is just everybody's getting out of their system. You know, they've been locked up for so long, wanted to spend some money, which is great. But interesting, the next 2 weekends, I guess, for us, will tell how the mood of the country is. We'll gauge it from last year. I'll let you know how that goes. Real sad tonight. Went downtown to get some Indian takeaway and walked past a travel agent which was closing up, taking all their stuff out. And I went to talk to the people there a little bit, and the lady there just burst into tears. So it's really, this is what's happening underneath it all, which I still don't think other people grasp. There's businesses closing left, right, and centre. Businesses' lives have been destroyed, and from the if you listen to mainstream media, of course everything's fine. Prime Minister today came out and say that the country's back to where it was and the economy's fine, everything else, which because she's just got no idea, of course. So it's hard, and I feel really sorry for these people that are in that situation. And so I hope that if you're listening to this, that you're doing all right and you're not going to be too affected by it, and you can take some precautions. One of the things I've been thinking about is how today's society, we don't really know how to do a lot of stuff. We get trained in technology kind of stuff, but not really the basics. If you look back about our grandparents and what they knew, and they could look after themselves and make do with all kinds of stuff, and the skills that they had that we don't seem to have now, it's quite amazing. And you look back to, we all heard the stories of the cooking, the bottling of all the fruit, the darning of clothes, making things last, fixing things that the guys did, all that kind of stuff. We're such a throwaway society now that we just no one knows actually how to do anything. You just ring somebody up to fix this, or you go buy something when that runs out or gets broken. So I think that's one of the things that I think is going to come out of all this, is that people are going to start to hopefully relearn some basic skills that we need. And a good way of thinking about it is if you had to go to the bush now and spend a week in the bush, could you handle it? Do you have the skills to actually be able to look after yourself naturally? And I would venture to say that 99.9% of people don't. They haven't got a clue. And it's certainly a lot worse now than it was 50, 80 years ago. And that's a shame, because a lot of those life saving skills and the skills that we used to learn through our many thousands of years of being around are slowly being lost, because everything's just so easy. We don't have to do that stuff anymore. We don't have to go and hunt the buffalo. We don't have to go and make a fire or even make clothes or do all that basic stuff that 200 years ago, if any one of us was put into one of those towns or whatever, we would struggle big time. Just the mundane stuff that people used to do that we wouldn't have a clue to do nowadays. So it's interesting, and hopefully that we can get back to a bit more basics as far as that goes, learn how to do a bit more stuff. It's quite rewarding, grow your own garden and all that kind of stuff, which means we're not so reliant on everybody else. So, we're more reliant just on ourselves to look after ourselves, which is a far better way to be, because otherwise, of course, and I'm predicting that in the future you're going to see a lot more marches like we just saw the other night, which I thought was, I just don't understand it at all. I mean, how do we in New Zealand march for someone who got murdered in America? And of course some people are going to comment about, oh yeah, it's all about Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. It's not. That was just a little thing to start the big riots out there that they all wanted to have anyway. So you got a lot of people hurting, a lot of unemployment over there. They never got money like we did in New Zealand. The government actually put out money to subsidies straight away. A lot of the Americans only just got those checks, and some of them, if at all. So they're really hurting 10 times more than we are. Unemployment huge. So this is just a disaster that was waiting to happen. And I'm pretty sure that I don't want to sound too cynical about it all, but the videos that I've been watching for the last 6 months, and a lot of people had already commented on you got trains and trains of all this military stuff going around America being set up in different cities, and they're all going, what's all this about? And of course now we see that it's actually being used. So a lot of it's been semi-planned, if you like, which is scary in itself. So what's that mean to us? I think we're going to, in New Zealand, we saw that obviously people are prepared to go out and protest for something that's got actually nothing to do with New Zealand at all. So what happens when we have something that actually really matters? We have unemployment going, through 10, 15%. We have people starving on the streets. We have people get kicked out of their houses. We have, people just having no homes to go to, having to live with their parents, maybe go back to that. So when we see all that kind of stuff, I think we're going to get a lot more protesting stuff going on and rioting even in New Zealand. And again, people are angry and people are upset that they've lost their job or their business or whatever. Hasn't seen anything of it yet, and it's being, I think, hidden and kept down, but human nature being what it is, I think that one day soon is going to erupt. And I'm not sure what's going to cause it to. There'll be something that is quite, doesn't have to be the exact topic. A bit like the coronavirus. I mean, people tend to forget, and I've said this a few times before and I'll say it again, the coronavirus and the lockdown, why it was the black swan event that caused this huge economic hardship that we're about to go in. It was going to happen anyway. It just needed something to trigger it. So the years ahead, people are going to blame it on the virus, but believe me, it's not the virus. Most countries, most businesses were not in a fit state before the virus came, and it just needed something to trigger that. It's basically, think of it like your body, right? When you're not very healthy, you've eaten too much, you've drunk too much, you haven't done enough exercise, you're just not healthy. Then it takes a very, very small thing to basically put you on the arse and put you in bed basically because you're sick. And yet whatever that small thing is, people go, oh yeah, well I caught a cold and it put me in bed for 3 weeks. Well, that's not quite true. I mean, basically you were unhealthy to start with, and the cold just caused you to fall over that line and trigger it through. So the economy is the same thing. Our economy and around the world was not in a good shape. It hasn't been for years actually, and it's just been getting worse and worse. The amount of debt we've got has just been getting higher and higher. It's a bit like a household where the income has been stagnant, yet their spending has been far exceeding the income every single year. And so in order to survive, they've just remortgaged their house, because technically the house looks like it's worth a bit more. So the bank says, yeah, no worries. And so that's what's happened for all the countries around the world for the last 10 years or so. And now we've come home to roost where basically, we can't do it anymore. The banks are going to say, no, you're not going to have any more money, and you need to find another way out. And it's a bit like being a drug addict, being denied your drugs. It's going to hurt. And so this printing money that the government's doing right now and giving all the handouts and everything else, which the Labour government is going to do all the way up until the election because they want the votes, obviously, that's just like giving a heroin addict more heroin. That's all they're doing. It's not making us go out and defend for ourselves. It's not making us put our lives right, the ones who are too far in debt and need to unburden that debt somehow. So it's just kicking the can down the road. But eventually that money will run out, and there's going to be some hard calls made. It won't be very popular, which is where the riots are going to come in. And then people are going to really, really hurt. And then you'll see the stuff on TV. And I'm sure that although obviously I don't want it, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I think we're going to see some stuff like we saw in America right now. We're going to see some of that stuff in New Zealand. And it's basically just anger being built up and has to be released somehow. And the cause is irrelevant. They just want to go and do the angry stuff. So I hope that doesn't happen. So anyway, so that's my thoughts. So I hope that everybody enjoyed their weekend, either away having a good time, spending some money, or like me, working and trying to make some money. So either way, it was good to see some money going through some tills around the country, and I hope that continues. I hope the government puts us in the lockdown, to level 1 next week. I think they have to now because of that march. Everybody just ignored it, and the government ignored it and everything else. So interesting to know that had you and I done say we did a protest against the government lockdown, and we organised 2,000 or 3,000 people, I'm sure the police would have been there and shut us down. But if it's something to do with so-called racism on the other side of the world, hey, not a problem, go for it. Interesting, eh? Got to make you wonder how people think. But anyway, so anyway, have a great evening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.